the portable radios and also the mobile radios that our department utilizes. For portables, we utilize three different types: the APX 6500, the XTS 2500, and 1500 models. We'll go through all of the functions and options that all of the radios have, and then also any particular things that any one model utilizes. So first we have our volume switches or knobs, and then also our channel selectors. The channel selection is from 1 to 16. As you change the channel, you'll see the name of the channel change on the front. We then have the emergency orange button, which we'll review later in this video. Working down, we have the digital screen that all of our radios have. On that screen, the first number right before the channel name is the zone number. So this is zone 1. Then we have the name of the channel, VIRM Ops 3. And this is your identifier. This is the ID of this radio. So this is R2A, meaning Rescue 2 Portable A. Whenever you key up the radio, it transmits that ID over all channels. So if you're operating on digital or on analog, it will transmit your ID. One different thing that we find in the 6500 model is we have the top screen here, and then we also have on the back side we have another screen similar to the 2500 model. It's telling us our zone, which is 1, the channel name, and then again the identifier. On the sides, we have all of them are the same. The top purple button is your backlight. That may not show up good in this video, but what that's doing is it's turning the backlight on and off. We have our push to talk. And then depending on if your radio has front buttons, which this one does and this one does not, the second button from the bottom is for changing zones, which we'll go into just in a second. And then your bottom button is scan. You know that you're scanning when you see the arrow there at the top. So when that symbol is showing, then you're knowing that you're scanning. So same on all of the other radios. We have our backlight. On this one, because it has the front buttons, the second button from the bottom doesn't do anything. And then the very bottom one is scan. As I mentioned earlier, all of the radios have the radio identifier in them. And so here we have Chief 1's radio, it says that on the front. Right here we have Rescue 2 Portable A. Whenever a radio is keyed up, it will transmit your identifier across that channel. This can be done on digital, this can be done on analog, whichever channel, using the repeaters or not using a repeater, it will transmit that and receive it. So here we'll key up this radio here, and you can see where it came across. Our department radios have 6 zones or banks of channels. And so to change zones, remember that first number indicates your zone that we're in. Right now we're in zone 1, which has 16 channels. At the top of the 1500 model, you'll see an A, B, and a C, and there's a selector. What that's doing is that's rotating through the first 3 zones. 2, 3. The second button from the bottom, which is active on the 1500 models, if we push this, it jumps us to the next 3 zones. And so here we have 4, 5, and 6. If we wanted to go back to the first 3 zones, we would have to push this button again, and we would be back to the first three. No matter what zone you're in, the first channel, channel 1, is our main operational channel. And so if for some reason your radio changes zones and you're not sure how to get it back to the main zone, you can go to channel 1, and that will bring you to our operational channel. On the 2500 model and on the APX 6500 model, zone is one of the options for the front buttons. When we push that button, we're able to scroll through and select which zone we want to operate in. Again, no matter what zone you're in, the first channel is our main operational channel, Vermilion TAC. On the units with the buttons on the front, the other options are battery. So when we push this, it tells us information about the battery. We utilize Impress batteries. So it gives us the percentage of charge, also how many charges the battery has gone through, and if it needs to cycle. The other option is the clock. You can set it to 24-hour time or regular 12-hour time. It's up to you. The APX 2500 is the same. We have the zone, battery. Again, it gives us this information about the Impress battery, the clock, and if we scroll over one more time, Bluetooth. Because these radios do have Bluetooth accessories that the chief officers may utilize in the command vehicle, they have the option of turning Bluetooth on or off. The emergency button on the top of the radios, the orange button, and also on the mobiles, they're all active. As you recall, all of our radios utilize the identifiers and transmit that identifier. And so that's also used if you were to declare an emergency. For firefighters or EMTs, this could be a mayday situation or any time that you need to transmit that you're in trouble of one kind or another. When we press this button and hold it down, it is sending out the emergency tone and your identifier across the channel that you're currently operating on. And so right now we have these radios set to OPS 3. That is a local channel. But if we had it set to one of our digital channels or to a state radio channel, then the state dispatch center would also receive that emergency. We don't really want to be sending the emergency signal over state radio unless it's a real emergency. And so for training purposes, we really want to only utilize the local channels. And so we'll go through the procedure for that. Obviously, the procedure for declaring a mayday or for emergency radio traffic, you'll want to reference our policy manual for that. This is just going to cover how the button works. And so, like I said, on any of the radios, we have the orange button. What we're going to do is we're going to hold it down. Immediately what that does is it sends an emergency signal across all of the radios, and it says who is having a problem. It also changes the screen on the 6500 models to red. To clear the emergency, so you'll see here that this radio is in emergency state, we could press and hold that down, and that takes us out of it. Now, no matter which radio you have, we'll do it on this one here. So again, it's saying that F16 is radio is an emergency. While it's in the emergency state, we hear that beeping. You can still talk over this radio. We're still able to operate on this channel. You don't have to clear it. If you want to clear it, you can. You just press and hold that down. One thing that's unique to the 6500 radio is the lapel mic. We have some more options on the lapel mic. On the top, we have our emergency button, which activates and operates the same way as the other one. We have a volume control, where you can control the volume, and the push to talk. This front button is not active for anything, but one thing you'll notice when we activate the emergency, the strobe in the front here will start flashing. And we'll continue flashing until we push and hold down the emergency button. And so what that's doing is that's just giving another, I guess along with your pass alarm and things like that, where we're able to identify whose radio is in an emergency state. The home button that's on all of them, I'm not sure if we covered that in the other section, but pushing and holding the home button will take you back to zone 1, channel 1. And that works for any radio that has that home button. Now, the 1500 models do not, but pushing and holding it takes us to zone 1 TAC, or channel 1, which is TAC.